Welcome to the Back 9 Six-Pack with Mitch and Justin. Let's roll.
Hello and welcome to episode 47 of the Back 9 Six-Pack. My name is Mitch, joined as always by my esteemed colleague Justin. Also joined by two of the most esteemed people I even know. Not even just colleagues, just general people. Gentlemen, back for their, third, fourth appearance at this point. Nick Ray, how's it going?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Good. Nicky Sticks in the house. And then obviously had to bring in the big guns. One, Andrew the Guenther. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Very excited to be back for another installment of the Back 9 Six-Pack.
Pro over there. That's a pre-crack, sir. We also have a fifth guest, to be honest. It's Justin's mustache. What's the game plan here? How much staying power does this have? Like, do we even have a plan?
Well, considering the amount of compliments I got today, first day on me, out in public, a lot of compliments, raining down compliments, some would say. This has got staying power. I think I have to build my confidence up with it and know I look good with it. I think I look good, but I got to know I look good, right?
That's all that matters. That's all that matters is if you think you look good.
Yeah, so that's where we're at. I think it's got staying power, though. It definitely has staying power.
Yeah, I mean, I respect it. I respect what you're doing. And, to Gunt's point, really, it's about the self-confidence. Honestly, your self-esteem may never be higher than this moment. Like, if you're going to be willing to rock the stash for a while, you're feeling good.
I even went to the gym with it on today. So we really stretched it out. And we tried it out in different situations. And I feel like the gym is maybe the last place you should try it out. It's one of the first places I tried it out. So, it went over well. I got some looks.
Did you take your police cruiser there, Officer Farva?
No, I don't have a take-home vehicle.
Oh, my gosh.
Love it.
All right, well, while you're here, which is hopefully for longer than Justin's mustache is, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We appreciate that. Helps us grow this thing. A little bit of a different episode tonight. That's why we got special guests in the house. We didn't want just mine and Justin's opinion on this one. We all took the time this week to quickly binge watch Full Swing Season 2. If you're not familiar, it's the Netflix golf show. They kind of follow around certain tour players, live players, etc., and kind of tell the story of the year in golf. Season 1 last year, obviously, I know, Nick, you mentioned already you did not catch Season 1. Did Guenth and Justin, you guys both get Season 1?
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
I got to it. Yep.
I'm going to toss it to you first, Guenth. Just general thoughts on Season 2 versus Season 1.
Yeah, I liked Season 2 more. I thought that they did a much better job of like, all right, you guys know what golf is. You know what a tee is. You know what the cut is. You know all these different things. Like, all right, let's do it. I also did – there is a little bit of both of these that I think that like, okay, you could stop showing the same tournament over and over and over. I know what happened. I absolutely loved Formula One. That's obviously the Formula One version of this show. I thought it was much more exciting because you were going through the entire season. And this did a very good job, much better than Season 1 did. I think Season 1 was strictly the U.S. Open just 8 times over and over and over. This one is, I really liked it.
Yeah, Justin, you got anything to add with that?
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy Season 2 not getting explained what a cut is about 75 times an episode. A little disappointed Scotty didn't have an episode on Scotty again this year, especially given his putting woes and some of the struggles he's gone through over the last 12 months. Would have really liked to see him kind of work through those struggles, given he is the number one player in the world. That was the only disappointment with Season 2 for the most part compared to Season 1, because I really enjoyed his episode last time. The way he kind of thinks about process and all that compared to results, which is completely different than what we talked about Brooks. But I was a little disappointed that he didn't have his own episode in this season. But overall, given it being a Ryder Cup year and all that, I enjoyed Season 2 a lot better. And I don't know if it was like a director or an editor of Season 1. He straight up said that Season 1 was not for golfers. I felt like the season 2 was more for golf fans rather than the casual fan. So, which is probably why we all enjoyed season 2 a little bit more.
Yeah, I think like if I had to stack up all the episodes from season 1 and all of them from season 2 and power rank them, I think maybe one from season 1 would be like in the top 10. Like it's not even close for me how much more I like season 2. I think overall season 2 did a way better job like cohesively telling a story, like any storyline basically. Like there was a through line from the first episode all the way through episode 8. Obviously the Ryder Cup year helped that. I think, you know, the way they dealt with Liv, while I think they hyped Liv a little more than it actually is. Its hype is actually reached in real life, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But it was way better than season 1, where like season 1, everyone was just trying to figure out what the hell was going on, like in general in the golf world. And so that just being more established, I think gave a much more clear storyline of like the tour versus Liv, Rory versus Brooks, like those kinds of things that I think helped the season along a lot.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Any other thoughts just overall in season 2? I mean, we could go endless ways. We're about to go episode by episode, so I don't want to dive too much in, but any other thoughts?
In just since I guess I'm bringing a fresh take, not having watched season 1. Mitch, I like what you said about like they did a really good job of telling a story. And something Guenth said, I'm wondering if like on Drive to Survive, because like I know you and I watched a little bit of that. You know, there's 20 drivers. They're all driving in the same race. Whereas like this is focusing on, you know, I would say there's probably like 8 to 12 main golfers that they followed throughout the season. They're not all on the same schedule. They're obviously all playing in the majors, and like some of the bigger events they covered where like guys were winning. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see the non-golf side. I found myself kind of going back to that a lot, and I think I'll probably hit on it a few times, but it's just interesting to see, like I said, the non-golf side as well, obviously.
Yeah, I think one thing with season 2 is they leaned a lot more into the star. Maybe this could just be because we know golf a lot more than the common person might. But season 1, I feel like they did a better job. The one thing they did a better job of was like kind of introducing you to some guys you didn't really know. Like Joel Damon was like still a new thing to most golf fans at that point. Sahith had the episode. Tony Finau, we didn't really know his story that well. This season was much more like concentrated on who they followed around, and it was pretty well-known entities outside of, you know, Alex Fitzpatrick, who's Matt Fitzpatrick's brother. So I don't know. I didn't feel. I mean, maybe Tom Kim was kind of that role in this one. They really tried to build him up, I guess. We can get into that episode later, but I don't know. I did appreciate some of the getting behind the scenes of guys you don't know that much about from season 1 versus season 2.
Well, I want to say that I think a lot of guys maybe had gotten scared off by the popularity that Joel Damon got, and they kind of hit on it in season 2. He's like, you know, he got his popularity not from playing really good golf, but from a show. You know, a lot of guys get their popularity from playing good golf, and then they learn how to deal with being, you know, the guy. He kind of, at least for the fans anyway. So that might have scared some guys off. Like, I don't want that. You know, I'm still trying to make it. I don't want it, you know, so I could see that being something that guys maybe shied away from a little bit.
Yeah, I'll say too that's a good point as well. For the guys that did do this, I honestly, for the most part, they were all pretty vulnerable. Like, especially Rory, I think. Either that or he didn't know the camera was there at all times, but like some of the stuff they captured like was really surprising to me, and it's super interesting.
Yeah. So. Well, and I think they know they have to kind of be that way, or it's going to be kind of boring, right?
Right.
So, and I swear, I think they're around so much. I think those guys just forget, like, oh crap, I have a camera here, you know, kind of thing. Like, they're just around, you know, the entire year. It doesn't really register when they start kind of unfiltering a little bit. So.
Yeah, I did find it funny, those moments where they kind of broke the fourth wall and like someone would be like, oh, hey, Netflix is right there. So like they would stop talking about whatever they're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Well, what do we want to do here? Do we want to jump into the episodes, or do we want to talk some winners? I'm going to take the reins here. We're going to talk winners and losers, just high level real quick. We got some superlatives we're going to give out later, so I don't want to show too much of our hands, but Nick, I'll toss it to you first. Give me some of the people that you that rose in your mind in this, and some of the people that lost a little bit.
All right. Well, I have 2 written down for the superlatives that you sent out to us earlier. So I'm going to save 2 guys. Highest riser. I didn't think that I was going to go this route, but I think it's Brooks for me.
Whoa.
Yeah. The reason I'm going Brooks here, or actually, that's not the highest riser. I take that back. He is a winner in my book.
Okay.
He's literally doing exactly what he set out to do. He got paid. He wanted to play in the majors. He's playing well in the majors. He's winning the majors. So, he's, like I said, he's doing exactly what he set out to do. Can't really fault him for it. And he went from the jump. And that was something that I kind of found myself as they started to get into Live in episode 2, I guess. Initially I was like, oh, dude, I'm totally out on Live. But then the more I watched it, I was like, you know what? I don't have any animosity towards these guys. It's the decision they made. And if they did it from the jump, then whatever. As far as losers go, and this isn't really a knock on him, but you just hit on it, Rory. I personally really like Rory. He's obviously a great golfer, but I just like listening to him speak on the game and kind of the state of the game. But it wasn't hard to tell, 5, 10, 15 minutes into that first episode, you heard some of the quotes that he said throughout the year. I forget what one of the ones he said was. He basically felt like he was the punching bag or something along those lines.
Sacrificial lamb. Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. Yep. And he says that he's closer with Jay Monahan than any other player on the tour, and then they go and do this, huge PIF deal without him even knowing. So, again, not a knock on him, but and one of the things I talked about is he's the face of golf, which he's not necessarily on purpose, just his talent level has sort of brought a lot on his plate. And I think that has kind of taken his focus away from the game. And, if he's that serious about getting that career Grand Slam and winning majors, he's probably going to have to take a back seat on some of those at some point. So, yeah.
All right, Guenth, you got a couple winners and losers?
Yeah. Honorable mention, biggest winners are sports psychologists. There was an entire episode that was literally just, hey, here's a guy that uses one and he wins. Here's a guy that doesn't use one and he's a loser.
Every 15-year-old in the country that's a good golfer is getting a sports psychologist as we speak.
Yes. Every crazy dad that's involved with their kid's golf game is on the horn immediately. So that's the honorable mention, biggest winner for me. I like Ricky Fowler so much. I think he is just he does everything the right way. Even when he won, he just hand, face in his hand, just soaking it in. Gosh, I really enjoy listening to him. The same way Nick said about listening to Rory, I really enjoy listening to Ricky talk. Just seems like he kind of has it all, figured out. Biggest loser. I think, just the entire Team USA, the Ryder Cup, just the way it was handled. I don't want to get into it now. But just the way that whole thing was handled, we'll get into it later. But that was kind of my big loser.
Okay, Justin.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to start with my biggest winner, Keegan Bradley. I will tell you this right now. I was not his biggest fan before this season came out. The guy won me over. He did. Who the hell doesn't unpack their suitcase from a 2012 Ryder Cup? That is the saddest thing in the world. It really pulled on my heartstrings, and because I think we've all had that heartbreak in some sport or another. And two, he came off probably the most human outside of Joel Damon. He comes off the most human of all of them. Just does, and just to see how much he wanted that, and to get it just completely ripped out of his hands. Yeah, it hurt me. Like I was like, it really, really hurt me when it happened. Even though I knew what was going to happen, right? To see that all go down. Biggest loser. God, there's so many of them in this season. But it goes without saying it's Zach Johnson. I think all of our worst nightmares were confirmed. Again, not going to get into this too much because we're going to get into it when we go over that episode. But I think every one of our worst nightmares was confirmed about the selection process and how that went down. So, and just his whole demeanor through the whole episode is just a disaster, and we'll get into that. But
yeah, there will be lots to be said about Zach Johnson. Winners for me. Look, I'm shook by this one because we even texted a little bit about this. I thought Paulina came off awesome. I was shocked.
I'd agree with that.
Like,
awesome?
Yeah. And
I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
from I expected.
Yes, from where my expectations were to like how she came off, like she totally seemed like a normal, just like golf wife, mom, all across the board. I mean, she was only in it for like 20 minutes of an episode or whatever, but like I was impressed.
Real quick, show of hands, who knew that DJ had a kid? Because I did not.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, maybe I was the only one that didn't know he had a kid. So okay,
I think he might even have. I
didn't know he rocked that chain all the time, though. Jesus,
I just didn't know. I know. I don't think he has a kid with Paulina. Correct? Those are from another.
They might have two, but
I think they're both with Paulina. I think there are two, and they're both with Paulina.
I don't think so. Actually,
look it up.
I'm pretty positive of this, but that's for another time. I also, I had Keegan on this list too. I'll save my biggest winner for later because I think that's one that this has been a point of contention on this podcast previously. So we'll get there. Losers wise, I feel like there were so many. Zach Johnson's chief among them for me, but I knew that going in. So I tried to think about this a little more. Jay Monahan, both times that he came, or anytime he came on the screen, oh my God,
loser.
I was furious. Like, his voice sounds exactly how you think it would sound. He looks like how you think he would look. Like, he just looks so smarmy, and I just hate, I got angry every time he was on screen. And also, someone else that was frequently in this is one of the commentators. I think Daniel Rappaport might be a clown, straight up.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff he said in this, and I don't know if he's getting fed lines, but it was so bad. And I got a couple quotes. We'll go through them when we get to those points. So that's a little bit. Oh, also one last one. Claude Harmon, get that guy out of here.
Nobody was safe.
Oh my God.
Sports Earth. Golly.
Look, real quick, I do want to add we'll call it an honorable mention. 3 of us are married men in here. 1 is about to be married. But I think this goes without saying, this really cemented the golfer's ability to outkick their coverage when it comes to finding women. Everybody knows about Paulina. Some people know about Jenna Sims, but it's the depth in which the wives go from golfer to golfer. So shout out to those guys.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Shout out.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Love the
Very
wags.
deep bench.
Love the wags.
Yeah, and I mean the wags will come back later when we get to the superlatives for me. So we'll put a pin in that. Oh God, I had one last thing and then I forgot what it was, which is a super helpful thing. Anyway, let's just get into it. Let's go to episodes.
Yeah.
All right. Episode 1, title: The Game Has Changed, Part 1. This is where we really get the dive in into everything that's going down between the PGA Tour and Liv and Rory versus Brooks and yada yada, et cetera, et cetera. Who wants the ball? Nick wants the ball. Take it. Let's go.
I'll take it because I basically already recapped episode 1 in my winners and losers. So this episode focused a lot on Rory, kind of his role or non-role in the whole Liv Piff talk stuff, and then obviously kind of what Brooks has been up to on Liv. I kind of already touched on it with Rory. One of the quotes that I thought was interesting. He said, let's just focus on the golf for a little bit. And I know I kind of already mentioned that, but like at some point, he's running around, if I know he's not playing every week, but you're playing Wednesday practice rounds, Thursday through Sunday. If you make the cut, he's got a couple of days to himself where he's like practicing, he's, resting, doing all kinds of lifting, whatever. But then he has all these other things with TaylorMade, and he's doing all these photo shoots and whatnot. Like at some point he's going to have to kind of like give some of that up. And now I know that might not always be possible through like sponsorships and whatnot, but like, I don't know if he truly is that. And I think he is passionate about, getting that career Grand Slam and winning as many majors as possible. Like, he's going to have to figure something out eventually. Brooks, like I said, he's, doing exactly what he said he was going to do. Wasn't a huge fan. Was it Jake Paul?
Dude, yeah, I haven't written down.
I could have totally gone without that whole segment of the episode. Like,
I'll jump in real quick. I think something they did at a few moments throughout this whole season was kind of give like the dichotomy between two different people or two different situations.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of them. You've got Rory, who's doing this like promo shoot for Jay at the Puttery or whatever that thing is called. And then you got Brooks, who's just hanging with the boys, and Jake Paul in the sim, and, guys are topping balls into the thing and all that. You know what I mean? Like it's total dichotomy between the two of them and their approaches. And I mean, some could argue.
The first 3 episodes were truly that low. Like we'll get into it, but
and I think
3 episodes were.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
The storytelling there, that was a big improvement between season 2 and season 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. The only other thing I had about episode 1, and they obviously like show it throughout the first few episodes, but like the Oak Hill locker room cracked me up. Just when I don't know. I didn't look up when Oak Hill opened or whatever, but like when you compare that to Augusta, like all the other, venues that they showed, like it's probably so sick, but it just looks so old and outdated.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely gave off like middle school away game basketball gym, like basketball locker room.
For sure.
Like, we'll just throw him down there. We know he can lock that door still. Like, so no, I totally agree though on Brooks. I think that like he came off very well in this episode and in this season. But I think we all knew it all along. Like Rory got so screwed by Jay Monahan. Like it's unbelievable how like badly he got just screwed over. I think they could truly make an entire series out of just that. Like, and I hope they do someday. They make a series of, hey, this is how this all went down, because I think that would be really entertaining. But Nick, I think you kind of nailed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll tell you this: I was pleasantly surprised at the enjoyment that I got out of first when Brooks passed Rory at Oak Hills, and Rory kind of been like, I'm. I have someone in my generation of golf that has more majors than I do. For some reason, just like made me like feel so good. It did, dude. It struck a chord with me. I'm like, God, that makes me feel so good. And maybe it's just because it's like, it's an American golfer, not a European golfer. Maybe that's kind of like, at least we got something, you know what I mean? And then I got some enjoyment out of watching the whole thing go down where he just gets blindsided. Like, I don't know why. It made me feel good that Rory got blindsided. And maybe it was because, like, a lot of people saw it coming. At some point, you're like, the PGA Tour does not have the funds to continue to do what they're doing without taking on new investments. And you kind of figured it was going to come at some point, maybe not that early on. But the fact that it was like he was the only one that realized that, like, this is never going to happen, but everybody's sitting in the back going, it's eventually going to happen, right? Like, it's just a matter of when. That gave me enjoyment too. I don't, and I feel bad because I don't hate Rory. I don't hate him, but it made me happy to see him get blindsided like that. I'm a bad person, I know.
I think unless you're like a live like super fan, which I don't, you could probably count those on two hands. Like I don't think that there are many like Rory haters. You know
That's
what I
what
mean? Like
I'm not though. I'm not.
yeah,
That's what I'm
and that's
saying.
what I'm
I'm
saying.
not.
Like, yeah,
I
but
felt
for some
bad because
reason,
I felt good about him being blindsided by Jay Monahan and, Brooks winning his fifth and then him being mad about it, essentially. Like, he doesn't have the most majors in his generation of golfers. It just made me feel good. And it's kind of one of those things that you don't know why it makes you feel good because I don't dislike him. I think he can be a little bit of a crybaby sometimes, but I don't hate him. So I don't know why I felt the way I did, but I did.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I felt that way. The issue is Rory hasn't won one in 10 years, so it's like you by numbers he's right there with Brooks in terms of it, right? He's one back of him now, but like, I mean, it's been 10 years. Like Brooks has won all 5 of his since Rory's last one. Like it's crazy. And for me, I'm a Rory fan. I want him to be relevant. He's been relevant in the majors, but there's that clip, in this. I think it was this episode, maybe it was episode 2. So sorry if I'm mixing that up. Where he's like, they catch him in the locker room. It's at Oak Hill, and he's like, I know I'm good enough to top 10 in these, but I don't think I can win. Like he's like, I want to just tear it down and rebuild it. Like he's like, that's the only way that he thinks he can get there, which is like a crazy. Like that blew my mind when they caught that moment.
Yeah, I found that pretty interesting. The fact that, he didn't play his best last year. And like we all knew, the whole live and getting blindsided by Jay Monahan, it essentially sold out, affected his golf because it did. It definitely did. I think we kind of all knew that. But I want him to be relevant too. Golf's better with him in it. But at what point do you go, maybe he's not going to be relevant anymore? Like as far as majors and stuff like that, because he's come kind of close, but it's not like he's up there every single time or 2 or 3 in a year. It's not like that. It's been like one where he's up there, and then it's the other 3 is kind of a crapshoot. So yeah.
I mean, I guess I should say, I mean relevant in terms of like a rivalry with Brooks more than anything, because he's clearly relevant like in the game, and he's in the majors, and he's top 10. I don't know how many since his last one, but in terms of putting one on the board against Brooks, he's yet to do that.
Yeah, as I said, rivalry requires like a back and forth, and there's no back and forth going on right now. So
no, but if you see Rory in the field, I mean, it automatically legitimate. Like that field becomes legitimate if Rory's there.
Yeah.
But I do think it's interesting. Like wasn't there kind of that same exact scene in the first season with Brooks where he was like, I don't know if I can win. Like, I don't know. And there were injuries at play and there were those things, but like that, there's literally that same exact moment with Brooks last season.
Yeah. And that's the episode I was talking about that would have made my top 10 list or whatever from the first season. So yeah, I don't know. And there's plenty of other moments too. Like I got a few things I wrote down. You guys remember Phil came in second at the Masters last year?
He did. Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He shot 65 Sunday playing with Jordan Spieth to finish tied for second. Just wild. After
Reed
showing up
there too.
What?
P. Reed up there too. He's like T4 or something.
Yeah. So like that was a thing where, and this is where the Rappaport stuff kind of loses me. He has a quote in this episode because they talked a lot about like, the live guys needing to be relevant in the majors to like legitimize the tour or whatever. And he goes, Brooks winning a major means live isn't going anywhere. No, dog, that means Brooks not going anywhere. It has nothing to do with live being relevant or not.
Yeah.
That
was a dumb quote. I remember him saying that, and I was just like, no, like of all the people, I figured if he had like a couple bad years in the majors and started falling out of the fields for the majors, that I legitimately think he would have been the first one to come back because that's what he lives for, right? So the fact that he won one, it's like, dude, he's definitely not coming back now. He's in all these fields for like what, the next 5 years or whatever. At least probably 5 years for some of them. So yeah, I'm like, that was the dumbest quote in the world. I'm like, he's definitely staying on live now. He's not going to have to play as much. And, he gets to play in the majors. I mean, that's a win-win for a guy like him. So yeah, I thought that was dumb too. It didn't really make a lot of sense.
All right. Any other episode 1 thoughts, or should we move on to 2?
Yeah, let's move on to 2.
All right. So, yeah, again, like I said, they do this a couple times in this season where there's part 1, part 2. Obviously, this is part 2 for the game has changed. Guenth, why don't you lead us off on this one?
Yeah. Really liked Ricky. Obviously, I said that earlier. I had a completely different opinion of Paulina than you did, Mitch.
Okay.
I thought she came across as just this unbelievably spoiled brat. Like that was just how she came across to me. And I don't know why. DJ is just Mr. Cool. It seems like everything is just, whatever. And like, again, this episode gave more of that. And so I don't know. I didn't have too much on this episode. I think it was it was good, but it was just maybe my least favorite of the, outside of Ricky winning. Seeing Ricky win was awesome. But
yeah, I'm with you on D. Honestly, like, I really miss DJ. Like, from like a week to week tour perspective, that dude was so good for so long. And I mean, I think he's really underrated, probably because he's only got the 2 majors out of what his talent and how long he was number 1 and all that. But yeah, his whole vibe, man.
yeah.
Did anybody else see the name of his boat?
I miss that.
I
Just
saw
chilling.
about it. Yeah.
Just chilling.
Yeah.
Perfect name for a boat that he's going to be driving, by the way. So.
Yeah, the Ricky stuff, I have complicated feelings about Rick, mainly because of he's never played well in the Ryder Cup, and then, we'll get to the Ryder Cup later, but like how it all kind of ends, and, they're Justin the Sniffles. We never saw any signs of any sniffles, by the way.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there, man.
But,
Show your thrusters, man.
But I'm with you. One of my initial notes in this episode is that he's just like severely underrated, like as a dude. Like,
yeah,
he seems so cool. Probably one of the easiest guys you could ever get along with, or whatever.
Top
but like,
5 hang on tour. Top 5 hang.
It could be, but I also feel. I don't know. I just like. I feel like I might want it more for him than he does, and I know that's not true. But like, that's just the vibe that I get from him sometimes. Like, he's almost too cool about. The disappointment at the U.S. Open and just some of the things that have happened and some of the close calls, and it's just like, man, I really want him to get over the line. I thought the stuff with Butch in this episode was really good.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, but
yeah, and one time you don't want him to be the first one to congratulate the other guy for beating him.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like I mean, he's a good sport. He's a good guy, but it's like, man,
yeah, absolutely.
All the way. Also, the early Rick outfits were so tough. Oh my god,
so bad,
dude. Horrible. I forgot how bad the Puma flat bills and everything were. Oh,
the hair with it is
And there was if you didn't see it, the Golf Boys made the cut. That was
What's Ben Crane to?
Dude, who knows what Ben Crane's doing?
I'll chime in real quick. So Justin had texted us about having some tears well up in a future episode. I actually cried during this episode. And I was like, I did. And I cried when Rick won that tournament in Detroit, the first go round. And I briefly mentioned this earlier. I found myself like, 3 of us in here are dads. And I felt like a lot of the dad stuff that they got, I know. A lot of the dad stuff that they got in not just this episode, but like several episodes was really cool. And when Rick won, like sharing that with it, like, Guenther, you talked about him with his hand in his head in his hand and sharing it with his family. I thought that was really cool. I didn't realize that he fell all the way to 185th in the world.
Yeah.
Like you just, I don't know, you hear Ricky Fowler's name, you don't really expect that. A couple other kind of like weird takeaways, not to like make light, and I'm not, of World War II, but June 6th was D-Day, and that's the day that the Live merger was announced, and I just kind of thought that was like
I didn't know that. That's kind of wild.
Yeah. And then another thing that I thought was hilarious about the intro to this episode was Joel and Gino getting the news in a Waffle House.
Yeah.
I mean, just to electric, like right up your alley.
That was not lost on this show for sure.
Yeah, I'll add to the whole Ricky thing. I didn't cry during this episode, but I definitely had something in my throat. Honestly, and it wasn't for the same part that you were talking about, him winning, and that was awesome, sharing it with his daughter. It was watching that final round of the U.S. Open. It was, dude, that was heartbreaking to watch. And like you could see it when it was happening, right? Like he was just kind of like, he wasn't moping, but he was kind of, just no pop in his step. Like he knew, this was not going to be the time, and that hurt me. For a guy that just absolutely wants Ricky to get at least one major, that hurt watching again. Because I had him, I bet him that week, and just in general, I knew he was playing good enough that he actually finally had a chance in a major after a couple years. So that part of the episode hurt, but yeah, dude. Okay, I'm going to bring it back. The only reason I say that I thought DJ has a kid with another girl is the way that Pauline was talking to him and behind the green at LACC. Like it was almost like she was talking to him like it was her stepson, not her actual son. So that's why I said that. You can go back and watch it, and I'm not wrong about how she's talking to him, FYI. But Paulina, there was such a low bar set for her that I think that clearing that bar was not much work. So she did clear the bar, Mitch. She did clear the bar, but it was set so low for her. But Ricky's wife, being that good of an athlete, she might be a better athlete than him, by the way, on record.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy that you don't ever really see her. You know what I mean? Like we kind of know other wives and stuff like that, but that was kind of the first time we kind of get introduced to her. You kind of find out more about her and all that. So I thought that was cool. Butch Harmon being in this episode, I'm a huge Butch Harmon fan. I thought the interview on the back of the range in Vegas, though, was a little weird. Like it felt kind of scripted, but that's also kind of how Butch Harmon is. Like he doesn't seem like a super social guy. And shout out to him for not going to any tournaments and just living in Vegas. So Congrats to Butch Harmon for having the ultimate retirement plan and still coaching guys. So
real quick, speaking of low bars, though, the sports fans of Los Angeles were right at the bar that we thought they were at. Like, just open seats everywhere. Just nobody on 18. Sweet, like unbelievable.
Nothing like opening an old wound, Guenth.
Hey, I know.
You know how I feel about this.
It's well documented.
So they call a callback in the business there. Yeah, a couple other just random notes. My very first note about this episode is that Jay's voice makes me mad. So the first note I had in the first episode was that Jay's face makes me mad. So I was not feeling any of the Jay stuff. There was I think they had like a live stream from Wesley Bryan that was at like a player meeting or whatever. And he pans the camera, and Grayson Murray is sitting across from him. So shout out to Jay. We had a Grayson sighting in the episode. And this is Nick. This is where you get the quote from Rory, where he's like, "I still hate Liv. It's hard for me not to sit up here and feel somewhat like a sacrificial lamb." Mm-hmm. And he also has that quote, I think, in the back of the car or whatever, where he's like, basically just like, "Fuck it, do whatever you guys want."
Yeah,
yeah.
So you can definitely see this is the Rory being at his wit's end after dedicating his life to this thing for so long.
By the way, adding a note to the whole Wesley Bryan table thing and Grayson Murray being there, this is where Grayson Murray and Rory got into it at this said meeting. The fact that Wesley Bryan was live streaming and then probably minutes later that goes down is just hilarious, by the way. The whole like complete loop of that whole situation is great.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The play better moment. Yeah. Which he did. Hey, look at that. All right. On to episode 3. Mind game. I'm going to take the ball here. Sorry, Justin.
That's fine.
This episode for me went so fucking hard. Like, this was by far my favorite episode of the season. like just Guenther, you talked about it earlier, like the dichotomy they set up between Wyndham with the sports psychologist and Joel's struggles and all of that was like too perfect. And then just some of the moments that they captured with Gino and Gino's wife, and Joel Damon's wife Lana was fantastic in this too. I just think they really, maybe they oversold the whole like, oh, we're famous part of this. Like, yeah, you're like golf Netflix famous. You're not like capital FAME fame.
He's not sitting courtside at the Lakers.
No.
And if he is, they're not showing him on the scoreboard.
Correct.
Right. And we already all knew that Joel was like super relatable, kind of like the people's golfer and all that. But like we can go through them in a bit, but like some of the quotes that Gino and him had throughout this, like I just felt like so deeply in my core. So without stealing the show here, somebody else talk now. Justin, you got some stuff on this one?
So, okay, first I want to add, I am a noted Wyndham Clark hater, okay? Well documented. At one point, maybe even a month and a half ago, I said he's the most overrated golfer on the PGA Tour. I'm not ready to eat those words quite yet, but I will say I liked him a little more after this episode, a little more human. I will say though, after this weekend, he is a noted he's a noted ladder climber, and he's the one that pulls up the ladder after he gets to the top of it, because he was one of them that said that he wants the tour to go to 100 people. I don't like people that pull the ladder up after they get to the top of it. I think that's lame. But I will say this episode made him a little more human to me. The whole mom story, which kind of knew from the U.S. Open. And I didn't realize how big of a hothead he was until I knew he had some issues in the past, but like I didn't know it was like that bad to where your caddy's like, hey, this is drastically affecting the way you play golf. Now, Joel and Gino, I'm gonna go one step further than you. Netflix fame is a thing, and there was a lot of people that watched season 1 that are not golf fans. So, and what's the one thing someone's gonna relate to if they're not a golf fan? The guy's like pounding drinks between rounds, like So I would say he's a little more famous than you're probably giving him credit for. That's just my opinion, but this is the episode I cried in. The scene of him, Joel and Gino on the plane, Joel finally agreeing to see a counselor. Dude, like, I just lost it. Like, just seeing them, like, you can hear Joel crying. You can't see him crying because he's got his head into Gino. But just what a scene. Like, that's why people like him. That is, like, the most human anybody was on the entire season. Watching those guys, maybe outside of Luke Donald crying after the Ryder Cup, but that was an incredible scene by the way, on a private jet, which is hilarious.
There it is. I was going to say, like, yeah, it's very relatable. Very relatable on their private jet.
And then Gina just keeps saying, like, as he's crying, like, are we there yet? Like, we're going to land this thing. The only part that I did not like in the episode, and me and Guenth kind of texted about this, was something about Gino's wife talking about Joel Damon's past just did not sit well with me. It's like, it's one thing for his wife to get on Netflix and talk about his past, right? And his struggles with loss and this and that. It's a whole nother thing for your best friend to get his best friend's wife to get on there and start talking about your past. And I kind of put it in like my shoes. Like if one of your guys' wives or girlfriends got on like a worldwide broadcasted, show and was like, yeah, Justin's dealing with some, baggage. It's this and that. And that. I would be kind of pissed about it, to be honest.
I think that if any of us did that to you, you'd be pissed about it. Not even and that's that was kind of my frustration with the episode. Is it's like, yeah, Gino, I know you're frustrated, but like, keep it in the locker room, man. Like,
yeah, putting them on blast.
Yeah, like it was. He made it very, very public. Go ahead. I don't want to.
No, you're okay. I totally get what you guys are saying for sure. But there's another. So let me read this quote from Gino, which I think kind of will illustrate my point a little bit. He goes, I probably bite my tongue more often than I should from like the aspect of a friend rather than a caddy. It's tough to wear both those hats though when he is your boss. I feel like there's something going on upstairs that even I don't know about. So when you think about it that way too, and the fact that they are actually genuinely best friends, sometimes you need those people in your life that are going to like call your shit. Mm-hmm. And, if he's just going to, put the blinders on just because he's his boss and, do his job and all that, I mean, that's not necessarily helping him at the end of the day. And like the other point of this is too, the trauma part of it for Joel, like he lost his mom. It's well documented. Like the fact that that's already out there, I think makes it a little more palatable that, they bring it up as that his wife, Gino's wife brings that up. So I don't know. I don't necessarily know that I would want it broadcast out there on a Netflix show. Of course not. But I do appreciate that, those are the kind of people that Joel has around him that are willing to, do that for him. And, he didn't want to take the first step on his own, clearly. So he needed a little nudge.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we don't know Gino's wife's and Joel's relationship. Like they might be super close. Like, we all know Ryan's wife really well. Like we've known her forever, right? Like, so like, would that be as odd for her to do it? Probably not, like, because she's known us for so long, but like they might have a close relationship and maybe that's totally normal for them to talk like that. The way it came off is like, they're trying to talk to Gino and then she's like tagging in like what she thinks the issue is. And that's what I had a big problem with. I don't know.
Was it kind of dirty of Netflix to put her on like that?
Like pan over to her.
Yeah, like I thought that was kind of a little dirty on Netflix's part, where they were just like, "What did you just say?" Like, oh man, like I'm sure there was probably other things in the show where people said something and they were like, "Oh, we're not gonna put that in. Like, we'll protect someone."
Yeah,
but not Mrs. Gino.
I'll chime in real quick and then we can move on to episode 4. Guenth, you brought up sports psychologists as winners at the beginning. I thought Julie, I don't know if her last name's pronounced Elion, Wyndham sports psychologist. She was really cool. Just kind of hearing her talk, seeing her side of things. And then like, obviously filling that like, motherly role that, we've talked about that he's missing, but it was pretty cool to see their relationship. And then, all that payoff with that win at LACC last summer.
Yeah, so I'll bring us home here on this one. For the Wyndham side of things, there's that quote in there where he says, pretty much all the way up until this year, I've always felt and feared the bad things that are going to happen more than believing the good things are. And I was just like, God damn, man, that's
pretty cool.
Like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, God, I felt this. So I hate to relate myself to a professional golfer because not even close, but part of me feels like Joel and I had a little connection on like just having a newborn again. And he has a quote. I think I got a little bit comfortable that I could just show up and do it, but that's not the case. I felt like that all last year during golf season where I was like, I played like shit last year, like straight up. Didn't reach any of my goals. We played awful in tournaments. Sorry to you personally, Guenth, for that.
You too. I played bad.
Yeah. And there were so many nights just at league night where I was like, man, I don't even really want to be here right now. And it's like, dude, this is golf. This is the thing that I love to do more than, anything else hobby wise or whatever. And I was struggling with it from that regard. So I can only imagine when you're him, you've got this newfound fame. This is your job. You're trying to be a good dad, like just all the stuff that collides and weighs on you. I mean, they're people, right? So I just thought this episode was like a really, really great look again between that dichotomy between the two ways people are dealing with this kind of thing. And then also like, a new dad and not one of the stars of the tour, right?
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing and then we can move on because it's the second note I had for this episode. Seeing them struggle with that diaper change was hilarious because I think you and I are now to the point where like, it's obviously not a struggle and it's just like, God, I'm so glad that is over.
Yeah. full on like fire hose from the kid there. All right, episode 4 time. I would like to cede my time on this episode. I think this was my least favorite. this or the next episode, these 2 episodes were just like, ooh man, I hope it swings back around for the last 3.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Well, I think Tom Kim as a player, I think, and just he's like a big teddy bear, right? Like he just is. Like that's what he is. He's playful. They even mentioned in the episode, like I can't remember who said it, but they're like, he's got to. Oh, it was his agent. He was like, he's got to realize, like he's swimming with sharks, right? Like he's just kind of like one of those guys that's like boop 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 up the fairway, young guy.
No, that was stupid Dan Rappaport again, and he was talking about a practice round with Jordan Spieth and JT.
But you could see how to be fair to him, that was one of his better quotes because you could kind of see how they were treating him, and it was like,
well, and like, one of them, I think it might have been JT. He was like, dude, he's like so nice, I can't even talk shit to him.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, it was JT.
And it was like I did like the funny part that I found was I think they were at TPC at Sawgrass. And I think JT said this line to no, it was Jordan. He's like, it's going to be Tom Kim and my kid back in the back eating PBs and J's, like crisscross applesauce. So found that very funny. But I don't know, like the only thing with him is he's not like he's a big personality, but he's also like trying to find his legs on the tour. Which probably made him like, I don't know, like not tone it back, but the scene at PGA, him going ass deep in that creek is just an all time major scene. It really, outside of like an actual golf shot. And then I think didn't he have to play like 8 more holes like that or 7 more holes? They have it on like 13 for him or 12 for him. So I can't
remember, but sorry, let me jump in real quick.
They made him to be a goofball, which I didn't appreciate because I'm like, this dude's like the top 30 golfer in the world. He's a little more than a goofball.
Yeah, so when he goes in the creek at PGA at Oak Hill, the mud everywhere remind me of a young Justin Epier, as we posted about at the time. This is like the peak Dan Rappaport clownage for me. After that happens, he says, it can go one of 2 ways. He can be the fun, affable guy who gave the internet a laugh, or he can rededicate himself to being one of the best golfers on the planet. Because he fell in some fucking mud?
Yeah.
Like, what are... Good God.
Yeah. Can't it just be funny to be funny? Like, it's just funny that he thought he could go in there and try to hit it. Like,
he's got to rededicate himself to the game because he fell in some mud.
I remember. I couldn't remember when it was in the episode. I knew he said that, but yeah, he does come off like a goofball, and I didn't think that was a fair display of actual Tom Kim.
The grittiness, the gritty thing, they kept talking. Oh, it was such a gritty performance. He did it with his hurt ankle. It's like, come on, guys! Like,
yeah.
He's out here trying to win tons of money. Like,
yeah, it's not like he's gritting it through for a trophy. Like he's playing for $3 million. Yes. I would have gritted.
I would have crawled. Like, yeah.
I'm going to jump in and keep it short.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought the Tom Kim episode, like, I echo what you guys say about episode 5. Like, there were some dead horses that were just absolutely beat to death on these 2 episodes. I thought, like, I made the joke earlier, like, hey, we know you're Fitzy's brother. Like, we got it. We've heard, we know how hard it was. Like, we get it.
You think he got out from under the shadow yet, or is he still in the shadow?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the ominous shadow. Oh God, we'll get to that here in a second. Jesus.
Yeah, that was a hilarious quote. When it's like, I finally did it. Like, what? All right, man. Cool.
Nick, what were you gonna say?
Episode 4 was filler. Tom's funny. Move on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we move on, there's actually some funny moments I did want to mention. One.
Okay, hold on. Before you say it, I'm going to say it then because I have it written down. Him walking around Augusta was hilarious.
That was very funny.
So good.
I love how he found his way into the champions locker room, and like that locker room attendant.
Here.
Like the locker room attendant was clearly annoyed by it, but he like didn't say anything to him. So yeah, that was funny. When did Tom Kim do it, and why did Tom Kim do a GQ shoot? Like what was that?
I don't think that was our GQ.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think
right.
it was overseas. Yeah.
It was like, yeah,
You're right.
Korean
He's a
GQ.
global star. Good point. Didn't think about that part of it.
Do you have another funny moment?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
There's two. Sean Foley and Chris Como being reduced to Tiger Woods' former coach in their title.
Oh,
Like, I mean, I get that's how most people probably are going to recognize him, but at least, specifically Sean Foley's like had a really prolific career as a coach.
God. Yeah.
That made me laugh because it happened twice in this episode with two different guys.
Oh,
you got another.
Dude, that'd
one,
be like, hold on, real quick. Like reducing Sean Foley to that would be like Benjamin Franklin, and all he did was sign the Declaration of Independence. Like that's all you said about him. Like that's reducing to someone to like one minimal thing. Like it's epic, yeah. Like it's cool that you were his coach, but it's like he's done so much more other than that. Like it's just, I found that pretty funny. Like they could have just said golf instructor.
Right.
I don't know how I stumbled. So no more funny bits. I don't know how I stumbled upon this, but so Tom Kim goes back to back at Shriners at the end of last year with his caddy Joe Scovron, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Who starts later? He has a new caddy. They're not together anymore. I tried to like figure out what happened. I never really saw anything, but he's kind of had a mixed bag of results so far this year. He's made 5 of 6 cuts. His best finish is T17 at Waste Management. But I just kind of thought it was interesting that, you know, he had a new caddy at, I don't know if it was at Kapalua or at Wailea, but one of those two Hawaii tournaments.
Interesting.
They were no longer together.
I wonder, did he caddy for him in the CJ Cup in the
Not
fall
sure.
when he won? Wasn't that the CJ Cup that he won in Vegas? They showed in the episode.
That's Shriners.
Or Shriner, sorry, yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Shriner.
that they won that together, and then like I said,
that had to be like one of the last
later.
ones.
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, Joe is Ricky's longtime caddy. So
yep.
All right, we're going into the shadows, episode 5.
Oh god.
Look, we picked Matt Fitzpatrick at the API, and I was not ready to watch this after the miscut, but I'm gonna. Nick, you got your hand raised. What do you got for this one?
I actually really liked this episode.
Oh,
yeah,
I did too.
Yeah, I mean, dude. Okay, so like, yeah, we can say like, oh, I'm his little brother. It was said over and over and over again, but I thought it was cool to see his story. I mean, like, you know, when you see it's going to be the Fitzpatrick brothers, like I was fully expecting this to be about Matt, and you know, he wins the U.S. Open in 22, I guess. And then all of a sudden it's about Alex and his story. I thought that was interesting. And like, you know, you and I talked a little bit about it. I totally forgot that he dated Rachel Keene. She's number 9 in the amateur golf rankings for women right now. So like, it was cool to see kind of their relationship with one another. Like two of, I guess, I don't know that, well, he's a professional now, but you know, she's a top level amateur. He's obviously a very good player as well. Just kind of seeing their relationship, but I don't know. I personally liked the episode. I didn't write down a whole lot. I thought it was cool to see his story. One thing I did, just because I happened to have the game on the other day, apparently they're Sheffield fans, and they just got blasted by Arsenal 6-0 like 5 days ago. So I just kind of felt bad for him. I just, you know, like I said, I thought it was kind of interesting to see Alex's side of it, especially because, like I said, that episode started. I was like, all right, here's Matt's, you know, story, whatever. But
I would like to add that if there are shadows out there that are that good, I would love to hang out in the shadows. His shadow was playing in a PGA Tour event that his brother invited him to. Playing Division I golf at Wake Forest, not the worst thing in the world. And then just having the opportunities, like it looks like he's got a Nike deal. You know what I mean? Like if there is another shadow, if anybody needs someone to be in their shadow that is that good, I'm available. I would just like everybody to know that if they really need someone to put down and be in their shadow, I am available. if it's that good.
Yeah. Guenther, you got something that looks like you were...
No, just agreeing along. I said just about everything I have to say about this episode. I think it was you can hear Gus playing, like, squeaking away.
Gotcha.
No, it's just I don't know. I wasn't impressed with this episode. I thought it was one of the more boring ones. I did think, like, his girlfriend being that top, like, high level amateur. I thought that was really interesting. But other than that, it was cool. His parents were cool too. I thought that was, like, a really cool moment where, like, his dad was like, "Man, I'm proud of you." So that was up.
Yeah. Matt Fitzpatrick. What?
Can I add this? This is where people begin to the idea behind golfers outkick their coverage really begins the cement that begins to dry, because they see Matt Fitzpatrick and then they see what he's engaged to and they're like, no chance. It just is what it is.
I had this written down about the 30-minute mark. She's walking. I can't remember if. Oh yeah, she's walking with him. And she asks him, this is after he finishes round, I couldn't see well. Did you birdie the last putt? He might need to call off the engagement. If you're a professional golfer and your fiance is phrasing it that way, that's a problem.
Give her some...
how much time? Whatever. Anyway, Michael Jordan texts Matt Fitzpatrick after he won the U.S. Open. Like, why?
I call BS on that, by the way.
Yeah, we might need a receipt on that one. Another thing that I randomly saw about this is 17 minutes and 40 seconds. There's like a band rolling through when they're in New Orleans at the Zurich. And I'm pretty sure there was a guy in the band playing the cymbals with a potato hand masher.
Seriously?
I'm almost positive I saw this. So
for anyone, that's a great eye.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and confirm that, but somebody else, if you want to look out for that at 1740 in episode 5, there you go. One thing that I was thinking about, I'm going to go back to the dichotomies between things. I think what would have been sick for this episode, and I don't think they probably could have done it, but it would have been awesome to have the Matt and Alex story alongside the Brooks and Chase Koepka story. Especially from last year. Look, I don't follow Liv that much, but apparently Chase got relegated last year from his own, like his brother is on he was on the same team as his brother. Chase had Liv Adelaide was like their big highlight event, and he had an ace in that event. If they could have had cameras following that around too, I think just seeing like their brother relationship versus Matt and Alex. I mean, Brooks brought Chase to Zurich one time as his teammate. I think that would have been an interesting kind of back and forth they could have played to get more of that drama infused here.
That episode would have been 100 times better if they'd done that.
Yeah. All right. Last thing. The Claire Jug remains undefeated. I think it's the best trophy in sports. Just going to throw that out there. All right. Episode 6. Now we're getting into it. This one's titled Pick 6. It heavily features Justin Thomas, Keegan Bradley, Zach Johnson. We are getting into the Ryder Cup episodes. Right off the hop, the ZJ stuff. Just a few things that happened here. Guenth, I think you still have the screenshot of him sitting with his legs crossed on the couch. Just immediately, that's disqualifying as a captain.
Beta boy.
2, he refers to his wife as Captainess. I don't know if you guys caught that.
Yeah.
There's the picture for anybody that catches a video. I mean, yeah. Number 3, there's an interesting moment where he's like asking his kids about like what majors he's won. His kids don't even know what majors he's won.
Yeah, that was bad.
You're taking on the content, Mitch.
I'm sorry. I just had to come. This ZJ is my block. I was on this from the moment he was announced. Everything was confirmed. Someone else talked.
Okay, hold on real quick. On top of the major talk, right, where he's like asking his kids, by the way, they didn't really know, which shows you maybe kind of how forgettable he is. Secondly, in that same scene, how many times did he mention that he was from Iowa? He's cutting the beef open. Nothing like some good Iowa steak. Like, bro, we know you're from Iowa. Like, give it up. Like, look, I am a big fan of flyover states. We live in a flyover state, technically. But good God, if Iowa disappeared off the map tomorrow, no one would care, first off. Maybe the corn industry, but that might be about it. No one would literally care. The fact that he kept mentioning it was driving me up a wall. Like, absolutely up a wall. I don't know why that did not sit well with me, but
probably because you're an Ohio State fan, a Big Ten country
no,
fan.
it was just like, oh, nothing like an Iowa steak, like cutting it open, it's like blood's going everywhere. I'm like, good God, dude. Like, there's good beef in a lot of places, just an FYI, not just Iowa.
Yeah. I left another moment out, too. This is where we get the famous Jay Tizzle reference.
God.
That was disgusting.
Gross.
Truly.
Absolutely disgusting.
Gus
Like,
isn't even chiming
What are
in
we
on-
doing? Like, after seeing him, Ricky, and Jay Tizzle at dinner together, after Jay Tizzle and him signing the autographs and doing that whole thing together in a weird closet.
Odd too, yeah.
Yeah, it was just a horrible, like, I was so disappointed.
Hold on. I'm gonna let someone else have a second, but we do have to talk about this tweet that I saw, and I will tell you this: it 100% carries a lot of weight. So that part where the first time we heard Jay Tizzle, and he's talking about Justin Thomas, they showed the clip and they were like, close your eyes and picture Michael Scott. And I did, and I'm like, holy crap, this is exactly something Michael Scott would do. Like, make a nickname up that no one's going to call him. No one else calls him that. You know what I mean? And it was just so... But it was like real life Michael Scott. That's the worst part. Like, Michael Scott's a TV character. This dude's about to go coach a Ryder Cup team. Like, that's so disturbing on so many levels.
So just to be clear, this was the episode where they made the calls and picked the teams and everything.
No,
Was that
it was like at the end of
Okay.
this episode
Okay.
and into the
Okay, sorry. But no, in Justin Thomas, like, making all those jokes, and Zach Johnson coming back and being like, well, I like free houses. Like,
it was cringy.
so this was all decided long before anything else. Like,
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I still think we'll get into it more, but JT was the correct pick. I think a lot of it got overblown with the Keegan versus JT thing when it was really more like the Sam Burns, like Ricky, Keegan part of the conversation. Like, I think JT was always going to be on the team unless it and it got dark. I mean, there was an 81 at the U.S. Open, an 82 at the Open, missed the cut at the Masters. He made the cut at the PGA, but almost came in dead last by the end of it. Like, he was down pretty bad, but I think they were always going to gamble on him showing up to the Ryder Cup and having it. So, but yeah, there was a lot of that, where we all kind of thought maybe the U.S. has turned the corner in terms of like how they make these picks. It definitely was like a ton of the boys club going on in this episode, at least.
Yeah.
Do we start talking about how good of a dude Keegan is now?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Dude, and this I think just kind of carries like throughout the rest of the episodes. Like, he's not featured a whole lot in episode 7, but kind of makes a comeback in episode 8. Dude, him wearing the like faded Red Sox hat around the house. I mean, that just is like, it's so Boston, it hurts.
He had a great line in there too, where he was saying like, when he was younger, like he basically never thought of himself as being, married with kids and all that stuff. And, now that's like his whole life is that. And I think you can really see that throughout Keegan's career, just like how different he is now, with the glimpses that we get of these guys, right? We don't know that well. But yeah, I was like you, Justin, for the longest time, just not a Keegan guy. Even when he was like kind of fun in those couple Ryder Cups he did play in, it was still just like a little much for me. And he just kind of seemed a little bit entitled and all that. But like there's just something to it. Like once you have kids and like life's not about you anymore, it will take your ass down so many pegs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought he came off incredibly, well and relatable in the series here.
Yeah, this was the big surprise. You kind of read before you watch, right? Like I kind of when it first came out, I went through the episodes. I'm like, okay, knowing what to expect. It's like, all right, I'm going to get to this episode and just hate it because I'm, one, it's going to have a lot of Zach Johnson in it. And then, like, I noticed Keegan was in it a lot. And I will tell you, and again, maybe it is because he's got the kids and he seems like an unbelievable dad, by the way. But I will tell you, like, the part where, he wins at the Travelers, goes up to his wife and is like, you ready to go to Rome? And I was like, oh my God, this guy's going to get his heart ripped out. Like, I just was like, oh my, like, it's one thing, like, if you don't know what happened, right? If you're just like an average golf fan, you didn't really follow along or whatever. Maybe you just watched season 1. You're like, I'm going to watch season 2, even though I'm not a big golf fan. You're like, oh, this is going to be so awesome. Like, his wife's happy, all this. He gets to go back and avenge his 2012 Ryder Cup. And it's like, this dude's like, I'm just sitting there like, God, the fall is going to be so hard after seeing that. And then when it happened, in the next episode, like, that made me like seeing all this lead up, and it's like, this guy wants to play, like, this guy needs to play in this, just because of like all the build up, like, needs revenge, all this. I'm like, and here's the thing, we like watching those episodes, knowing his mindset of like, I want to avenge my 2012. They know that, right? Like, they see these guys every week at tournaments, like. They had to know that, like, knowing that, like, dude, you want that dude on the team. Who cares if he even plays in 2 matches? You're getting 2 points out of that dude. Like, he's going to come in, and he's already fiery. We've seen it in past Ryder Cups. But I was like, how do you know this and not put this dude on the team? Like, this guy was going to get you a point every time you sent him out. Whether that was once, twice, 3 times, whatever. Like, he was going to make it happen. And that's what just, like, knowing his heart was going to get torn out in one of the next episodes just killed me, like, to the bone, man. It just sucked.
Do we want to go to episode 7? Get into the phone calls?
Yep.
All right. Episode 7, All Roads Lead to Rome, Part 1. Again, this is where we get kind of more of a look at behind the European Ryder Cup teams, what they got going on. But it starts out with ZJ making the phone calls for the captain's picks. So, high level, I got to tell you, these calls were a lot lamer than I thought. JT seemed to be like the only one that really gave a shit when he got the call. Everyone else was like, oh yeah, cool, man. Especially Brooks. Brooks was like the ultimate, like, yeah, cool, man.
Yeah. Can't wait.
And then before I turn it over to somebody else, I do just one comment on the Keegan call. So they show Zach, like, before he makes that call, and he's like, oh man, like, I'm so nervous, like, my heart's beating fast. All I could think about was Will Ferrell and Step Brothers before he's about to sing to John C. Reilly. I was like, yeah, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Like,
yeah, he just came across so just bumbling through this whole thing, and it was so frustrating. I wrote down the note that, like, there was a quote where Daniel Rappaport was talking about, like, for Team Europe, all that matters is consistency. All that matters is consistency, and that's how you pick a Ryder Cup team. And then he was like, but it's such a tough decision now for Zach Johnson, where it's like, all right, like, and Mitch, you want to say, like, Justin Thomas was always going to be on the team. That's fine. But, like, Justin Thomas, like, didn't even make the playoff. Like you just said, he shot an 81. He shot an 82. Like, so Daniel, what is it? Is it about consistency? Is it about, like, hey, this guy's been good at Ryder Cups before? Well, so has Keegan Bradley. Like, Keegan played on Ryder Cup teams before too. Like,
yeah,
that was very frustrating. Like, what is it actually about? And I know it's like, well, we got to put the best team together. Well, when we talk about these teams, it's like everyone, and I get, like, world rankings, like the U.S. team was stacked, but who on that team scares you in match play? Like, I know Scotty is world number 1. He could go out there and he could be a guaranteed he's going to win his match you could put him by himself against two guys from Team Europe, and like Scotty's probably going to win it if he's on. But there are days when like you could put two Scotties out there against one European guy, and he's going to lose just because of his putting. Brooks is intimidating. I think Brooks is probably one of those killers that was on the team. Spieth can be a liability. Ricky, you don't know what you're going to get. He hasn't been very good in Ryder Cup. So I don't know. The whole time it was just kind of like this team just, and you can argue like Tiger Woods doesn't have a good Ryder Cup record, right? But I don't know. I just was never blown away by the team and who was on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that speaks directly to the captaincy because, like, it's not like they have a ton of good players on the U.S. side, obviously, but, like, who are you going to take instead of some of those guys? Like, I think Cam Young was the most egregious based on, like, points and whatever and major performance that got left off. But, like, are you going to put, I don't know, Tony Finau or
Denny McCarthy was
Denny McCarthy.
Yeah, he was
like,
14th in the standings. Like,
some of those names, it's like,
Scam Young.
Really? Yeah, he's Scam Young. I think it just came down to like they were just like straight up ill prepared. It's obviously hard to win on the road. Like neither team's done it in a while. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really get back to just the captaincy from Zach Johnson and just not having them in a good spot.
I don't know what the Euro guys did, but I don't know if this was an episode or 7 or 8, but it said that most, if not all, U.S. guys took 5 weeks off before this. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know what the Euros did, but
I know it's a grueling thing. It's a stressful thing playing on the road and a Ryder Cup, and I know you got to walk, however many holes you end up playing in your match, but like the NFL takes 1 week off from tackle, full contact, car crash football.
Out of each other, yeah.
Like, what are we doing, guys? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, you could say there's a rust factor there. Nick, to your point, the Euros, I'm pretty sure the whole team played at Wentworth. Like,
they did.
I think it might have been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before. So, like, I mean,
was that the BMW?
Yeah, they were.
It was like 2 weeks before because I think that was one of the episodes I was on. We had talked about it briefly.
They were clearly just a much more cohesive team, and we'll get into some of the division that apparently was like floating around or whatever with the U.S. team. But like, yeah, I mean, it's always been that way. Team Europe always seems to come better as a team, or come together better as a team than the USA does.
Can I say this about Zach Johnson and just any coach in general? When someone continues to spew, I'm just trying to put the best team together. That is like the preemptive, I'm about to make a shitty pick. Like, those are the famous last words of, and honestly, every good coach I've known has never used those words. I've had some shitty coaches in different sports and all that, and that is like the famous last words for.
Oh my God. You getting a phone call?
Yeah. Those are like the famous last words for I'm about to make, 1, an unpopular pick, and 2, probably not the right pick. So, and I'll die on that hill. And I know I have a lot of hills I'll die on, but that is a hill I'm willing to die on, especially when it comes to Zach Johnson.
Nick, you got anything to add there?
No, I was going to say, like, I don't totally disagree, but then, like, I'm looking up, like, snubs on golf.com, and we already touched on a couple of the names, like Cam Young, Keegan Bradley, Denny McCarthy, Lucas Glover, who won in back-to-back weeks, but, like, do you really go with the, like...
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like the
consistent... I know. I
don't have... Like, there isn't that assassin on the team. It's just... Brooks. Would you say is Bryson DeChambeau? Like, I look at names. Again, you guys are much more dialed into golf fandom than I am. But, like, you look at names and, like, if Tiger and Phil aren't on the team, who do you go to?
Scotty has won the match play. I'll say that.
Okay. So
dude,
Scotty.
JT is that guy. He just wasn't playing well last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's the juice in the Ryder Cup for the US. Like, that's just a fact.
Yeah. He usually is, but
yeah. I Also, Will Zalatoris was out with an injury. That's a pretty big stick that you could put out there. Daniel Berger, I know to a lesser extent, but he was on the last team that whipped ass in Whistling Straits. Like Bryson, to your point as well, not on this team, but was on in Whistling Straits.
Bryson had a pretty good record, right, in Whistling Straits?
Everybody did because they kicked their ass. But
He was like 2-1-1 maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. I mean, the horses, and that's the thing. The horses got to come be the horses, right? You got the thoroughbreds got to be the thoroughbreds, and if they're not gonna be, then you're dead in the water anyway. So, do you want to get into some of the European team stuff here?
Yeah, I want to say Justin Rose. I've become a bigger fan of him over the last couple of years. Again, I think this episode kind of solidifies that he's like a top-notch person, and honestly, someone I think is like drastically underappreciated in our game. One, for his career. Like, people don't, like, I don't think people realize how great of a career he's had. And two, we see him make a flat white during this episode, which is, and by the way, it said it takes him like 20 minutes, which I thought, I was going back to our coffee discussion, him saying he like flat whites.
Yeah.
I put that note in. I was like, we let these guys that make artsy coffee kick our teeth in. Disgusting.
The other thing about Rose too, he's so English, it's unbelievable. Did you catch when he gets the call from Luke Donald? Luke's basically like, "What's up?" He's like, "Oh, playing football in the garden and having a nice glass of Pimm's."
Yeah, I did catch that. Yeah. What is Pimm's, by the way? I don't know what Pimm's are.
I don't know either, but I know that's like an English beverage.
Yeah. He's the next European captain, right?
He could be on the team. I mean, he could be on the team again. I don't know.
That's true. He just gave off that, like, the whole leadership aspect of the European team just came across like NFL team were in the playoffs. Like, it was just so much different than like what Team USA had, where it was just like, all right, yep, we're here, we're gonna win. Yep, we're gonna come over here and handle business. This is what it's all about. All right, we're gonna work hard, play hard. Here we go. And that was it. Like, instead, we had the sniffles, and that was the situation there.
I do want to point out something. Pimm's is an English brand of gin. So just in case you were curious of what that is.
Good.
But I just think that from a leadership standpoint, it feels like the English, the European team, they just have guys that kind of like step up to that plate. Like, they know when it's coming their time, and it's kind of like they just step up, right? They know when, like, and Luke Donald was lesser like that because he kind of took it over from, Stenson. But you can already see it coming. Like, Justin Rose, like, if he has like a bad year this year, maybe kind of falls off a cliff next year, he's going to know in like 2 years, like, this is my time. This, I would guess that they're going to roll him out at the next one in European soil, is my guess. They probably won't throw him to the Wolves at Bethpage, but I could see him doing it in 4 years. That gives them a little more time to maybe not qualify for the team per se, but
yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like the whole selection process for the European team was just like they knew exactly what they wanted on the team, and they went and got those guys. Where it was like us, it was like, what do we want on the team? Like, do we want Keegan? But do we want Cam Young? He's younger. Like, it just felt like for a team that had a lot of pieces in place, we were doing more of the decision making.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Is like we have more of like a wealth of choices too. Whereas, like, the Euro team, I mean, they're already reaching a little bit deep when you look at like a world ranking list or things like that. But I did want to say, to the point of like the leadership on the Euro side and how bought into the team they are, I think an excellent moment they captured was when Rory and Nikolai Højgaard were playing a practice round together. And Nikolai was asking him kind of like, man, like, is this like shit just like overwhelming for you, or like what's the deal or whatever? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? And Rory literally basically was like, hey, you're here. This practice round is just for you to understand the course. Like, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You're on the team.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, we have nobody on our team that would say that, nor anybody that would want to hear that or ask that question. So, I think that summed up the difference really for me.
The leadership side of it was very much like the Bill Belichick, like, we're on to Cincinnati. And, like, as Bengals fans, we were like, oh, God. Like, we knew we were done. Like, we had no shot. They had every answer to the test already, and it was bad. We knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah. One last note on this episode, and this is the second time I didn't write it down the first time it happened, but the first tee shot from Scotty, they go dead silent. He hits driver, and it was an iron sound that they dubbed in.
Yeah, I didn't notice
There's
that.
a different time. There's a different time in one of the other episodes where it's Scotty again. He hits an iron, but it's a driver sound. I'm like, what? So
Clearly,
just a little.
clearly non-golfers are editing this
Interesting.
show.
Yeah, so watch out for that, anybody. There is a moment too that it happens earlier than this one, but this is one I wrote down. Anything else from episode 7? I mean, U.S. team gets waxed.
Yeah, they
Day
show
one.
what they show Friday. Yeah, the Friday. I mean, obviously. Go ahead.
Sorry, the last moment from the ZJ, struggle bus, is when he's like in the car and they're trying to like talk to him about pairings or whatever for the next day and stuff, and he's just like, I just can't right now. I'm too exhausted. and just like, bro, you're in a courtesy car. You're the captain of the team. Like, you just got your ass beat. You got to have something.
Figure it the fuck out. Like, good God, dude. Yeah, that was a little disappointing. But yeah, like just seeing the whole Friday thing happen, and then like, they like even they were like, what the hell just happened? Like even the European team was like, look, like obviously you don't go out and think like, oh, we're gonna lose, like we're gonna have a huge deficit after the day. But like, I don't even think they knew like, holy crap, we can win 4 matches in the morning and then go that long without losing a match. I don't even like even they were like in complete like, what the hell did we just do? What that thing, which is so much it makes you even more mad about the situation. You're like, they didn't even believe they could do what they did, and it happened, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just unbelievable.
Hey,
All
did
right,
I make
episode
it back
8.
in?
All roads lead to Rome Part 2. I thought this was a nice touch. The opening scene is like Shane Lowry and Ray talking about a hat that Shane has that doesn't fit him. It's like way too big or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit of a nod to what was to come with the Hatgate situation. So that was a nice touch. Speaking of hats, Keegan, we get a glimpse of him watching back at home wearing his Team USA hat. Like, I don't know if this was try hard or cheesy or if it was awesome. I don't know, but it was cool, I guess.
I don't think it was cheesy. I genuinely believe that. I think he had moved on and was going to root for these guys at that point. I really do. Now that we've seen his episode, and I think that was pretty genuine.
Yeah.
Another note I had, there's a few putts they showed of Xander Schauffele. I forgot like how useless he was in this whole event. For one of the guys that was supposed to be a stalwart, like his putts that they showed were so bad, and I was reminded how bad he putted. And I was like, I think he was actually throwing matches. Like legitimately, they were that far off.
It wasn't good.
No,
it was not good.
I mean, I had the same, like these 2 episodes, I kind of put all the notes together on them. But it was just disappointing. Watching it back, I hated the way that we handled the hat thing.
Me too.
Yep.
We 1,000,000% look in the wrong. And I don't know if it's like, a basketball coach getting a technical, like, is he trying to fire the boys up? Like what's going on? But like, it very much felt like, man, we look like idiots right here. And so
I will say this. I didn't like how we handled the hat thing, but this is what I had to get off my chest because you kind of see the whole thing transpire, right? Shane Lowry's yelling at Joe LaCava. they make up. They're good. Like they leave the green. Like as soon as they get off the green, they kind of get a little loud, but then like they're like, hey, like you hung around too long. And he's like, okay, got it, whatever. They move on. It is over,
Yeah.
over. No one even thinks it's still going. It's like even a thing still. I mean, they obviously ask him questions about it because it happened on the 18th green when they get in the media tent. But Rory going after Bones for whatever reason, who really even knows? It's about that. After it was already settled, like it was done, way done. Like this is like an hour and a half after the round ends, is so try hard, like tough ass that it's just so cringy. Now that you see that they settled it like right behind the green 2 minutes after it happens, and then an hour and a half later, Rory's like yelling at Bones, which he had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And it was so try hard to like fire the guys up. It was so fake. It was so fake, and I kind of thought it was when it happened too.
I mean, just to play devil's advocate there, like I was sad we didn't get the sound of that altercation outside there. That's a bummer that we basically just got the same clip and look at it that we had before. But two, I don't know if Rory had settled it there on the green. He's still out there putting. They're talking to Joe and he's talking to Shane Lowry and Justin Rose. Like maybe they were all cool, but I don't think Rory ever got like made peace in that moment necessarily. And who knows what may have been said to him on the way to the car. I don't. Yeah, you're right. It could have been him being a tryhard, but it also I don't think we fully know that story because there's no sound.
Here's why I think it was tryhard. If he actually had an issue, he would have sought out Joe LaCava, right? The fact that he's yelling at the nicest caddy on tour, who has like no mean bone in his body, no pun intended, that's why it's tryhard. Like he's yelling at like the nicest guy that's been around forever. Everybody has a ton of respect for. Had nothing to do with the situation. That's why it's tryhard. Like if it was Joe LaCava standing there and he's like yelling at Joe LaCava, then it might be legit. But that's why it's like tryhard. It's like he knew Bones wasn't gonna like do anything back, like yell back, because he had nothing to do with it. That's why I thought it was tryhard.
I agree. That's fair. That's fair. I know that you guys historically are not big Patrick Cantlay fans.
No.
I mean this moment put a good mark in the books for him for sure.
Again, you guys are more dialed in. You've seen a lot more Patrick Cantlay than I have. All I have seen is some guy that literally put America on his back. That's all I've seen. And hey, you can be a jerk. I mean, there's a statue of Ray Lewis in Baltimore.
Yeah.
You make big plays and big situations. I like you.
The only thing about that though is one, they almost didn't finish because of daylight, because he was in the last group. No one pushing him behind him, by the way. That was my biggest thing. I'm like, after knowing like the putt goes in and all this stupid stuff, I'm looking in the background, I'm like, dude, it's fucking dark outside. This guy's not going to finish in time. They're going to come back out and play 18. That's the only thing I can think about, which makes it even more sad, by the way.
Yeah.
And the fact that Xander and him robbed us of having some inside access to the locker room for the Netflix series makes me so angry, especially for how bad they played. Maybe not family, but for how bad Xander played, it's like no wonder he didn't want the cameras around. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought I think I'm leaning one way, but I don't really know how I feel about like what was it? Justin Thomas the next day who was like, "Hey, I'm also not wearing a hat tomorrow." Like, all right,
so lame.
Yeah, I had that note written down. Like the fact that it like took this like stupid hat thing for the team to like gel and stand up for something was just so disappointing. Really,
just stand up to going over there and winning.
Yeah.
Like just
exactly.
I'm gonna empty the clip here on some notes I had. One so just from in terms of the episode itself, I like. This one felt really rushed to me. They went from like Friday's debacle basically straight into Hatgate. They didn't even cover like the morning session, where Brooks and Scotty get put into a locker and then
He
Scotty
cried.
cries. Like, we didn't catch that. We didn't get the moment of Zach Johnson talking Jordan into hitting 3-wood dead into the water on 16.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of moments that like didn't get captured that I kind of wish had.
Sniffles was never mentioned.
Sniffles
One.
never mentioned. We talked about that. Justin Rose pulling out that half point and then like pointing at all the guys on the team and pounding his chest. Way up in my book after that moment. Like, that's to your point about Justin Rose coming out looking good. Massive fan after that. That was awesome.
I don't think I almost did. I think I like Team Europe way better than I like the American team. After watching, like, if you watch this in a vacuum, it's like, those are the good guys, those are the bad guys.
Way more likable. Not even close.
Yeah.
So obviously Rick gives up the last point to Tommy Fleetwood. He hits the ball in the water. It's kind of dead anyway, but he conceded the putt. I think we can all agree you got to make the guy putt it to win the Ryder Cup, even if it is a foot and a half.
A lot worse in the Netflix series too, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, that went down. Netflix did try to get my ass on ZJ though, when they had that moment of his son crying after they took the L. They tried to get my ass. I didn't take the bait though.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I injected that straight into my veins, by the way. There's nothing like a kid crying that gets me, especially for someone that is now on my bad side, that gets me going.
Ugh. And then we talked about this after the fact too, but Luke Donald just came off as awesome in this whole thing. I have a ton of respect for him. I did after the Ryder Cup. They replayed the interview he gave after, talked about how it was like the crowning achievement of his career. This guy, he didn't win a major, but had a good Ryder Cup record himself and got to number 1 in the world at one point. So like, we're talking about a good player, and this meant that much to him, and that was always awesome to see. There was one weird moment at the end between Rory and Rahm. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah.
You make me want to be better.
You make me better. God, it's so weird.
Yeah, that moment was kind of lost on me. I wish I had never seen that, honestly.
And then Rahm bolts for live like 2 months later.
That's
Get away from me, weirdo.
It makes it even worse when you like realize what happens 2 months later.
God, that's just like another dagger right into the Rory vulnerability fans, right? Like, poor guy.
Unreal.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it all ends right there. I think it's time. I feel bad we lost, just for the listeners out there. We lost Nick. No charger for the laptop. Phone also dead. Apparently, he's down bad. But we thank him for his service, everything he contributed to this episode. We are on to some superlatives to kind of round this out here. All right, we kind of talked through a lot of these, but we'll do a little round the horn style. Guenth, you're going to bat lead off for us as the guest.
Okay.
Honorable, distinguished guest. Best episode for you?
The first Ryder Cup episode, I think that was just like, here's why he lost. Boom, done. Totally outclassed in every single way.
Justin?
I'm going to go Mind Game number 3. Just
that was mine as well.
Yeah, it tug on all the heartstrings, crying, laughing, just hit everything.
Yeah, one thing we didn't talk about during that, I just imagine like if any of us ever had that moment, it would be exactly how it went down with Gino and Joel, where Gino's just like, he's just like, God damn it, Joel, fuck you. Like if we ever had like a true crying heart to heart with each other, that's how it would go.
I do. Well, adding on to that, like if you like when they're having that talk and he's just like, look, if you want to go out there, you want to play Thursday, Friday, and then we just get fucked up on the weekends, we can do that. But I'm like, yeah, it definitely I'm like, this is a conversation that I feel like most of us would. This is exactly how it would go down. Like, look, I'm down to have fun, but we gotta figure out what we're trying to do here. Are we trying to have fun or are we trying to make money? Like, yeah, so good.
All right, Guenth, who is your highest riser in your personal ranks here?
Highest riser, I like Tom Kim. I think that again, you guys watch a lot more golf than I do. I think that Tom Kim is going to be the next like Joel Damon when he's talking about like, I just want to eat a piece of chocolate after this. I think the average American can really get behind that. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. That's a good point.
He's going to be kind of the next Netflix celebrity golf wise.
I can see that. He's just a big teddy bear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My highest riser, we already hit on it, Keegan. I was not a big Keegan fan before his episode. Now I consider myself a fan at this point. Yeah, I feel for him in all the ways, and happy for him that he kind of made a comeback last year. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say Luke Donald, but I think I decided that before I actually saw this. So I'm gonna go someone that I just thought was kind of a villain in a story that I wanted to see. Look, Wyndham Clark. He took down Rory and Ricky at the U.S. Open, and that was like in the time so painful. Like it was like I just wanted one of those two guys to win, and here comes Wyndham Clark out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But having seen more of the backstory, the work that he's put in to like go from, because you didn't see Wyndham Clark out there that much because he wasn't playing well, right? But like from going to the guy that slams clubs and has anger issues and all that, to be able to like find and seek help and go for it, and like the relationship he has with his sports psychologist, like all of that was just like, I think it gave great background to the end result that we had already seen. So yeah, Wyndham Clark for me was the highest riser. Sorry, Justin.
No, you're good. He was a close second for me. Only because I told you I didn't think he was worth anything to the PGA Tour, and it's like you see see the story and the incredible year he had last year, and he became more human to me. Because before I thought, like when he won the U.S. Open, he felt very robotic, just someone you can kind of just dismiss. But now, again, he's said some things recently that I'm not a big fan of, but he was second for me.
All right, Guenth, opposite side of the coin. Who fell the most?
My initial notes were Paulina and ZJ. I wasn't a fan of the way Paulina carried herself there early on. But I was really disappointed in Joel Damon this season. It was like, dude, come on. Like, you're so good. You could be there. Like, just put in the effort, and everyone around you telling you to put in the effort. They're begging you, just do it. And so that was, I think Joel Damon was probably my lowest faller, especially, and like,
he was so high.
Like, he was so high. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got more vulnerability out of them. I mean, there were some laughs with those guys. Like, there's always going to be that, right? Mm-hmm. But you got more vulnerability than it was, like, actual laughs. Like, last season, it was like you see them crushing high noons, between rounds at a U.S. Open qualifier. Like, it doesn't get any more funny than that. And it ends up qualifying and then comes in, like, fifth. But, yeah, the bar was just so high that it was like I don't even know if there was room for them to go higher as far as, like, entertainment value.
Yep.
My lowest faller was it's got to be Rory. I mean, you started having hunches last year that it's like, okay, like, dude, this guy's just like, he's kind of a crybaby. It's like a woe is me. And then you really see like the woe is me. He didn't in particular name the fact that, hey, this is why I was playing bad golf in the beginning of the season, but he kind of like hints at it. Like, I was playing bad golf because I was so enthralled in, saving the PGA Tour. He doesn't say it, but he definitely hints at it. And for that reason, like, it's just, I don't know. It solidified his crybaby side to me. It's like, he definitely is. And it's funny, him being such a good competitor, you would think that it would be something that he would like find a way to fight through and like become better from. And it was kind of like he became worse from it, which is surprising for someone of his caliber. So,
yeah, I totally agree with that for sure. This one was tough because I didn't really feel like, relative to expectations, there were that many changes there, like in terms of going down for me. But I had to go with Zach Johnson. Like, the floor was so much lower than I thought it was, I think. Like, we were digging a hole in a basement, and I just didn't fully realize that.
Bro, you were digging a hole below the septic tank in the backyard is where you were. That's how low the bar was.
And I like, I think, it confirmed it all for me, but it also just like some of the stuff was like, man, it's even worse than I really thought. So I absent of really any other contender in this category, I think it just kind of de facto goes to ZJ for me.
Okay.
All right. Best non-golfer cameo. So this could be anybody that is obviously, as I just said, not a golfer in the show. So I don't care if it's one of the commentators, a wife or girlfriend, fiance, a random interactor within the scenes, anybody that stood out to you guys within the non-golfers.
I like the fans at the Ryder Cup that all wear the same suits. Like they all get those matching suits. Those are probably my favorite ones. I wasn't a fan of the Jake Paul scenes. I like the fans that wear the suits.
We're gonna have another reappearance of a wag. Miss Donald, Luke Donald's wife, dude, what a just incredible woman. Like everything that you wish Zach Johnson's wife would have been was what she was. Just from handling everything, being like a steady hand. It felt like Zach Johnson's wife was like just as nervous as he was, like especially in the call section. Now she wasn't in the call section for him, but it was like, she just felt like that steady hand. It was like she was kind of taking care of everything that she wanted off his plate, right? Or he wanted off his plate or didn't want to handle. So yeah, big shout out to her. Big fan of her now.
She's American, no?
Yeah, I mean they come over here and steal our girls and win our Ryder Cups and all that. So not surprised there.
Yeah, Diane. I was right in the same boat with you. I just kind of want to shout out the majority of the wags. Honestly, Diane, Holly, which is Gino's wife. I enjoyed her appearance. Lana, Joel's wife. But yeah, I loved the look behind the scenes of, like I just had this moment of realizing myself, like how self-aware really are you, And then some of the quotes that some of the, the wives and fiancés gave throughout this, I was like, just how in depth that somebody else can know you. And I thought that really gave a great insight to, because a lot of these tour players, they got sponsors, they got all this stuff. They're trying to protect an image. They don't really give you much. So like when you had some of those vulnerable, authentic moments coming from the people that know them best, that stuff just fascinated me. So yeah, there was a quote in there from Diane, Luke's wife, where she was kind of talking about him, going through the process of getting the captaincy kind of in a weird way and all that. And she was like talking about his career kind of winding down and how he's going to bounce, like what he was going to do next. And she just made the simple comment of Luke does really well with a project. And like that just, for whatever reason, stuck with me. And I was like, man, that dude just aced the project, right?
Yeah. I remember that line. I was, it's talking about like knowing somebody, right? Like she nailed it. It's like, give this guy a puzzle. You know what I mean? And that's essentially what you give him when you give him a blank slate and you have to pick 6 guys along with 6 people that get assigned to you and figure out how that puzzle fits together. And, not to mention like putting the golf course together, because the home team gets to put the golf course together. It gets say in how the golf course is set up. Like it's a gigantic puzzle, especially as the home coach, of putting teams together, putting the course in a way that's set up that's helps you and is detriment to the other team. Not so much as now as it used to be, but there's still things like where tee boxes should be that, it's like he put the whole puzzle together like almost perfectly, as crazy as that sounds. I know Stricker did a really good job at Whistling Straits. But it felt like we were going to win that one regardless of how the course was set up. But it was like this was like, okay, like he had the perfect, like he put the puzzle pieces together in the first try without even like trying pieces together. Like it was just like, here's our game plan, here's what we're going to do, and it's done. So I thought that was a fascinating quote from her, and he definitely aced it. So
yeah, so one final shout out to the wags, including our own Danielle, Chandler, Susie, Rachel for Nick.
Yes.
Shout out.
Big shout out. Yep.
All right, worst moment. Guenth.
Jay Tizzle.
Yep.
It was Justin said it earlier. It was Michael Scott meets the Nard dog. Like it was like a combination of their 2 worst qualities in the world. Just unbelievably. unself-aware, meets bad nicknames. Just like, there we go. There it is. So that's mine.
My worst moment's got to be the dinner at the Open when they're sharing a house, and it's like all your worst fears are confirmed. It's like, dude, this was so predetermined. And look, I agree with you. It wasn't a JT Keegan thing. It was like a JT, or it was like a Ricky Keegan, maybe someone else, Cam, or Sam Burns or whatever. But and I don't blame Ricky for this. I truly feel like this is like a Jordan JT thing, trying to get their friend on the team. That's kind of what it felt like. Because I think they both knew, like, deep down, like, we're going to be on this team. It was like them trying to get Ricky on the team. It was just cringe, right? Like, for how bad they played. And then you start looking at the table, you're like, this entire dinner table combined for 2 points. Like, that's what makes it that much worse. Like, there were
and
3
lost
players
speed
on
the
the
ball,
team.
and yeah,
like there were 3 players on that team at that dinner table, and they combined for 2 points in 2 days. Just disaster. Like, that was the worst moment for me. Not even close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down anytime ZJ is on the screen, but Jay Tizzle takes the cake. So yeah, I'm with Gun. Jay Tizzle was what did it. All right, wrapping things up here. Best moment.
The Ricky win. The Ricky win. Just the way that they told the story, they framed it, they kind of put everything together, and then it's him, and it's the head in the hands. That I thought that was the best moment in the show. That and I'm not going to. I'll wait till the end for my honorable mention because I think one of you guys is going to say it.
Yeah, my best moment's definitely Gino and Joel on the plane crying. Like, again, it just hits all the points, right? Like, they're crying, but then they're like kind of laughing. And Gino's like, "What is this? Like, are we almost there? Like, get me off this fucking plane!" Like, you're crying, but you're laughing at the same time.
It was super buddy, but like, we know this is ridiculous. We know we're crying about golf. We know we're like, like, we know we're on a private jet. We know we're like,
it's just like the most ridiculous, like, everything combined in that scene is just like the most ridiculous thing in the world.
But it is very emotional. Yeah.
For me, Gino and Joel in the jet was also the one. From like a golf fan perspective, like I mentioned this too, Rory, when he's talking about like the complete teardown and rebuild, like that hit me. I was glad we got to see that moment because it feels like, sometimes you don't feel like these guys really are like truly care as much as maybe you want them to. And I think it's pretty evident that Rory really gives a shit and wants to win.
Oh yeah.
So as like a Rory fan, that was a good moment for me to see.
I was going to say Luke Donald after. Yeah,
Luke Donald's interview.
I think that was my second favorite, even though like it hurts that he was beating us. Like, man, I get that's what it's all about. He reacted the way that I think that any of us would react had we just been in his position.
Yeah. Well, it's just kind of like, I think we said this when we went over the Ryder Cup when it happened. It was like, you watch that interview and you're like, if I got to lose to a guy, it's going to be like, I want it to be this guy. Like,
a worthy champion.
Yep. Like, I'll take the L against this dude. Like, I don't know how I would have handled it against Henrik Stenson. Like, I don't know. Like, he's so like non-emotional, but like, it's like, if I'm going to lose to somebody, like, let me lose to Luke Donald. Like, I'm good with it. 100% good with it.
All right, I got late breaking news here. I got a text from Nick, who has apparently charged his phone enough to send a text. He wanted me to make sure that his non-golf cameos got included in the conversation.
All right, let's hear him.
His first one, Dan Orlovsky breaking down football on Keegan's TV when he gets the call from VJ.
So hold on, real quick on that. Someone tweeted it out. It's like, this scene is like a whole mood. It's like, you got like the worst news of your life, but then you got Dan Orlovsky in the background. Here's how you fix the Giants. Like,
so that was a good catch. I didn't catch that when I watched it. The second one I definitely did catch, but Thomas the Tank Engine at Tom Kim's house.
Oh God, dude!
He has a giant model. It's not just like a one thing. It's a giant train.
By the way, so he has that one. Did you see him take the picture for GQ where he's holding like a mini one?
Yeah.
I swear to God, if that was ever in a GQ magazine in America, like I would never take GQ serious again,
Unreal.
like ever.
Absolutely unreal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that does it. Full Swing Season 2
Full Swing Season 2
has been reviewed and recapped by the Back Nine Six Pack. If you haven't watched it yet, go back and watch it. Hopefully this enticed you to watch it. Send us some thoughts if you've got some, what you've noticed in the background of thing. That was kind of the most fun part for me, is I like just catching, the guy that's playing the cymbals with the hand matcher, was stuff like that.
Just like
the weird sounds,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's stuff that doesn't for me.
We're coming up on 2 hours here, so I'm going to call in with my Patio Beers question for the next episode.
I think we're going to stay off the pat. You're going to call in next week. Yeah.
I'll call in, ask my question, give you my answer as well, and then you guys will go that route.
All right.
Sounds great. Like well, we will look forward to that. So anybody that got this far, stay tuned for next week for Gunt's Patio Beers question. An excellent tease, if you will. Also, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. We really appreciate that. Follow us on social media at Back9Sixpack. And until next time, cheers.
See ya. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Back Nine Six Pack. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Back Nine Six Pack for all your content needs. We'll see you guys next week. Cheers.